What if the biggest thing holding you back isn't failure, but the fear of being judged? Think about it. How many times have you stayed quiet when you wanted to speak? How many opportunities have you ignored because you were afraid people might laugh, criticize, or think less of you? Most people think fear of judgment is just insecurity, but neuroscience says something much deeper is happening. Your brain is literally treating social rejection like physical danger. And once you understand why, you start realizing something powerful. The fear controlling your life is based on survival code written for a world that no longer exists. Thousands of years ago, being rejected by your tribe was deadly. Humans survived in groups. If your tribe abandoned you, you lost protection, food, warmth, and safety. Rejection wasn't emotionally painful. It was life-threatening. So your brain evolved an alarm system, an internal warning mechanism designed to stop you from doing anything that might get you excluded socially. And even today, your brain still runs that same ancient software. That's why criticism feels so intense, why embarrassment can feel unbearable, why speaking up in front of people sometimes feels terrifying for absolutely no logical reason. In fact, research from neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman at UCLA found that social rejection activates the exact same brain regions associated with physical pain. Your brain literally processes harsh judgment almost like an injury, which means every time you avoid taking risks, sharing your ideas, posting your work, or expressing yourself honestly, your nervous system believes it's protecting you from danger. But it's not protecting you from danger. It's protecting you from growth. And that changes everything. Because suddenly, your fear stops looking like truth and starts looking like outdated programming. Number 1. Your fear of judgment is making you perform worse. Here's the cruel irony. The harder you try to avoid embarrassment, the more awkward you often become. Psychologists discovered that people who excessively monitor themselves during conversations, how they sound, how they look, whether others approve of them, actually perform worse socially. Why? Because all their attention shifts inward. Instead of being present, they're trapped inside their own heads, analyzing every word, every facial expression, every silence. Meanwhile, the people who appear confident usually aren't obsessing over themselves at all. They're focused outward, on the conversation, the experience, the connection. A fascinating study involving experienced basketball players found that athletes with higher fear of negative evaluation performed significantly worse under pressure. Their anxiety about failing increased the likelihood of failure itself. The fear created the exact outcome they were trying to avoid. And honestly, this happens everywhere in life. At work, in relationships, at school, online. You become so focused on avoiding mistakes that you lose the freedom to perform naturally. Number 2. Your brain exaggerates how much people care. Humans suffer from something psychologists call the spotlight effect. We massively overestimate how much other people notice us. You replay an awkward moment for weeks. Meanwhile, the other person probably forgot it in 10 minutes. Why? Because everyone else is too busy worrying about themselves. Think about it. Most people are focused on how they look, how they sound, whether they're being judged. They are not spending nearly as much time analyzing you as your brain assumes they are. But social media has made this worse. Now we compare our behind-the-scenes struggles to everyone else's carefully edited highlight reel. Every scroll quietly reinforces the belief that everyone else has life figured out. And slowly, people become performers instead of human beings, always filtering themselves, always adjusting, always trying to look acceptable. But the exhausting part is this. No matter how perfectly you perform, someone will still judge you anyway. Number 3. Avoidance traps you in fear permanently. Most people think avoiding uncomfortable situations keeps them safe. Actually, avoidance strengthens fear. Every time you stay silent, your brain receives confirmation. Good thing we avoided that. That could have gone badly. But because you never test reality, your fear remains unchallenged. Psychologists call this lack of corrective experience. Your brain never gathers evidence that things might actually be okay. And this is where growth happens. Not when fear disappears first, but when you act despite fear. Modern neuroscience shows that anxiety weakens through something called prediction error. This happens when reality contradicts your fear. You speak up, and people listen respectfully. You post your work, and nobody humiliates you. You set boundaries, and the relationship survives. Each experience sends new data to your brain. Slowly, the old fear system weakens, not through motivation, not through positive thinking, through evidence. Number 4. The people who change the world are usually judged the most. Here's something important. Criticism is often a sign that you're finally visible. Every person who created something meaningful was judged heavily. Walt Disney was fired for lacking imagination. Thomas Edison was told he was too stupid to learn. Countless artists, leaders, creators, and entrepreneurs were mocked before they were respected. Why? Because doing anything different automatically attracts judgment. People judge what they don't understand, what threatens familiarity, what disrupts expectations. Which means trying to avoid all criticism usually leads to one thing: living a forgettable life. The truth is, being universally liked often requires becoming emotionally invisible, and many people unconsciously choose invisibility because it feels safer. But safety has a cost. Number 5. Authenticity is more powerful than perfection. Most people believe they need to appear flawless to be respected. Psychological research says the opposite. Studies on vulnerability by researcher Brené Brown found that people connect more deeply with those who openly share imperfections, struggles, and honesty. Why? Because authenticity creates trust. Perfection creates distance. Nobody relates to someone who seems emotionally untouchable. But honesty feels human. And strangely, the moment you stop desperately trying to impress everyone, you often become more magnetic naturally. Because confidence isn't perfection. Confidence is comfort with imperfection. Number 6. Real freedom begins when approval stops controlling you. This might be the most important shift of all. There's a huge difference between, do people approve of me? And am I living in alignment with who I truly am? One makes you a performer, the other makes you free. Acceptance and commitment therapy teaches people to stop organizing life around avoiding discomfort and start organizing life around values instead. That means asking, what actually matters to me? What kind of person do I want to become? What matters more than temporary approval? Because once your values become stronger than your fear, everything changes. You speak more honestly, create more boldly, love more openly, take more risks. Not because fear disappears, but because it no longer controls the steering wheel. Not the absence of insecurity, but the willingness to move forward anyway. Number 7. Freedom exists on the other side of judgment. Most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid discomfort, avoiding embarrassment, avoiding rejection, avoiding criticism. But what if discomfort isn't the enemy? What if discomfort is actually evidence that you're growing? Think about every major transformation in life. Speaking up for the first time, starting something new, being vulnerable, setting boundaries, posting your work publicly, walking away from unhealthy people. None of those things feel comfortable initially. Growth rarely does. But every time you survive a situation your brain once feared, you expand psychologically. You become harder to control, harder to silence, harder to manipulate through approval. And eventually, something incredible happens. You stop asking, what will people think? And start asking, what kind of life do I actually want? That's freedom. Not external perfection, not universal approval. Freedom from constantly needing permission to exist fully. So, what would your life look like if you stopped organizing it around fear of judgment? What conversations would you finally have? What ideas would you finally share? What version of yourself would finally emerge? Because the truth is, people will judge you no matter what. If you stay quiet, they judge you. If you speak boldly, they judge you. If you fail, they judge you. If you succeed, they judge you. So you might as well build a life that actually feels true to you. The people who become powerful, creative, authentic, and unforgettable aren't the people who eliminated fear. They're the people who stopped obeying it. And maybe that's the real goal. Not becoming fearless, becoming free. If this video resonated with you, leave a comment below. What would I do if I stopped fearing judgment? And remember, the discomfort you feel when you risk being fully seen might actually be the feeling of becoming who you were supposed to be.